What do we do now? This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and that is the most pressing question in the NBA media landscape, and obviously to the Miami Heat as well, is what is the Heat's plan after the Damian Lillard trade to the Milwaukee Bucks happened? Because the Heat were expecting to get Damian Lillard the entire offseason. That does not happen, so where do they go from here? That's the main topic on today's show. And before we jump into everything, I want to let you guys know that I'm not going anywhere. I probably covered the Damian Lillard trade situation better than anyone on YouTube, but that's not where our Heat coverage stops. We're going to cover them during the entire season, talk about rumors, analyze how they played during the game, and talk about the team in general. So make sure you do subscribe because we're doing watch parties as well this entire season. So join us here at the Heat Report. But I do want to start by looking at this trade one more time because the Bucks obviously get Dame time and the Blazers get Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Tormani Camara, a 2029 first-round pick from the Bucks, and then 2 pick swaps as well. And then the Suns receive Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and Grayson Allen. But the reason why I wanted to look back at that trade is because there are a lot of rumors out there right now that concern the Miami Heat. Pat Riley, Joe Cronin, because the full story is still not been released. We got Dame's cousin firing off tweets and the agent saying that the Heat did everything they could to try to trade for Damian Lillard, but we also have Barry Jackson and other reporters saying that Pat Riley never upped his offer from the initial one he sent that we assume was likely Hero, Kyle Lowry, and 2 first-round picks. I don't know what to believe, and I don't want you guys to go out there and just start thinking that this is Cronin's fault, this is Pat Riley's fault. My guess is it's a mixture of both, the reason why this didn't get done. But I do think it was worth noting that there's a lot of talk out there, and I don't know what is true, and I don't think we will ever know what is true when it comes to why a Damian Lillard trade to the Miami Heat never happened. All right, let's now get into the news of today's show, which this is horrible timing, by the way, by the Miami Heat. The Dame trade happens. I sign off our live show. In 10 minutes after I do that, they fire off this tweet, which is that the Miami Heat have waived Jamaree Bouyea and Caleb Daniels, signed John Elmo and Cheick Diallo. Following these roster moves, the Heat waived Elmore and then signed RJ Hampton to a 2-way contract. And Ira Winderman, who covers the Heat better than anyone, also had this to say: Diallo is an Exhibit 10 camp tryout contract, so the Heat remain at the maximum 21 for training camp. The 2 ways for the Heat are now Drew Smith, Jamal Cain, and then now RJ Hampton over Jamaree Bouyea. And I got to be honest, I'm kind of sad about the Heat waiving Jamaree Bouyea. Was he ever going to do anything for the Miami Heat in an important way? Probably not. But I liked what Bouyea flashed in Summer League, and I liked that he had some experience playing with the Heat's active roster last year. He's small and couldn't really defend, but he's very shifty and was able to beat his man off the dribble quite a bit to either get to the rack, hit a floater, or find a teammate involved. Now, on the flip side of this, I am very intrigued by the Heat adding RJ Hampton as a 2-way contract player, because if you remember RJ Hampton, he was one of the top recruits back in high school. He ended up going overseas to play, and this was before NIL in college. He elected to not go the college route, but then was a first-round pick in the NBA draft, ironically by the Milwaukee Bucks, before getting traded elsewhere. But in Hampton's career, 162 games, he's averaged 7.1 points per game. Not much anywhere else, but Hampton isn't the most efficient player. But one thing I do like about RJ Hampton is that he's athletic, he defends, and he is still very young. He's only 22, so there's still a lot that the Heat could develop out of what once was thought as a lottery pick point guard in the league. And I'll also say this. This was shared by a reporter that has ties to RJ Hampton. He texted RJ congratulating on him signing with the Miami Heat. RJ responded with this: "Appreciate you. Miami is the perfect fit for me. It's only up from here. People will see I'm an elite guard defender now." And I absolutely love that mentality. Yes, it's only a 2-way contract, but if he flashes in training camp, flashes in preseason that can easily be elevated to that final 14th active roster spot for Hampton, who can be a backup point guard potentially. Like I said, he's athletic, he defends, and if he gets that good mentality and is able to figure out his offense a little bit, he could be a very good addition for this Miami Heat roster. I'm now going to talk about what the Heat do from here on out. But after the Heat make those roster moves, they miss out on Damian Lillard. I need a pulse check of Heat Nation. How are we feeling about Miami Heat right now? Scale of 1 to 10, let me know in the comment section. I gotta be honest, I'm sitting at like a 3.5 right now. I'm in shambles that this Dame trade did not happen. All right, let's talk about what the Heat do from here, because if you look at the current state of the Miami Heat roster, this is what I would be willing to bet the starting lineup looks like on opening night against the Detroit Pistons. Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero in the backcourt, Jimmy and Caleb on the wings, with Bam Adebayo in the middle, with Nikola Jovic, Josh Richardson, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Duncan Robinson, Thomas Bryant, Haywood Highsmith, Kevin Love, and Orlando Robinson filling out that bench. But I will want to say this right now. If the Miami Heat seriously consider themselves a threat in the Eastern Conference and are serious about winning a title this year, which it makes me hard to believe they are after they do not get the Damian Lillard deal done, but if they believe they can win the finals, win the championship, adding someone of importance to this roster is an absolute must. Because the Bucks got better, the Celtics got better, and those are your two biggest competitions in the Eastern Conference. You did not get marginally better to say you can confidently and comfortably beat the Celtics or Bucks. But if you add someone like Jrue Holiday, you add someone like Buddy Hield, maybe you can. So that adding someone to this roster before opening day in a month is absolutely necessary. And this is kind of where I point to with Jrue Holiday. Adrian Wojnarowski, who broke the news on the Damian Lillard deal, had this to say on top of the deal. The Blazers remain engaged elsewhere on deals and he said this wrong, but are expected to immediately engage contending teams on trade talks to move on from Jrue Holiday. Sources tell ESPN Portland is committed to its young group of talented guards. And then it was backed up by Real GM, which I don't even know the sources. They have 160,000 Twitter followers, and I don't know if they've actually ever been correct when it comes to breaking news or having insider info, but they said the Heat and the Sixers are interested in trading for Jrue Holiday. And I will say this, Jrue Holiday could save the offseason because Jrue Holiday is a fantastic player that we're going to dive into here in a little bit. And him, Jimmy, and Bam would create a very, very big three. But before we break that down more in depth, I got to give a shout out to our sponsor, that is PrizePicks. Today's Heat Report is sponsored by PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you can pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. If you want to see what I picked in the NBA as a future coming up in this season, I picked Anthony Edwards more than 26 points per game, Paolo Banchero more than 21.8 points per game, and more than Bam Adebayo 9.3 rebounds a contest. Another positive of PrizePicks, they allow quick withdrawals and have easy gameplay with an enormous selection of players and stat types, which make playing daily fantasy sports so much fun. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I mentioned Jrue Holiday being a fantastic player, and the numbers back it up. Over the last 4 seasons, he has been nothing short of a consistent third option on competitive teams. In 2019-2020, he was the lead man for the Pelicans, where I watched a lot of that team because I'm a big Lonzo Ball guy, and I felt like Jrue Holiday was forcing things. 19 points per game, 45% from the field, 35% from three. I do feel like he was forcing things, and you can see in comparison to the last 3 years in Milwaukee, his efficiency numbers were down. But when he was able to be a third option for the Milwaukee Bucks, he flourished offensively, shooting 50% from the field in 2 out of 3 seasons. 39, 41, 38% from three, while providing elite perimeter defense. And we know Jimmy Butler absolutely torched him and made him his little kid in the postseason, but don't be mistaken, Jrue Holiday is a good defender. And he's going to be expensive a little bit too. Getting Jrue Holiday would probably cost you Kyle Lowry to match salary. One of our young guys, probably not Tyler Hero, he's probably too good for that, but maybe it's a Jaime Jaquez Jr. and 1 or 2 first-round picks, but it's absolutely worth it. Because like I mentioned, a big three of Holiday, Bam, and Jimmy would be arguably the best big three in NBA history when it comes to a two-way level. Because Jrue Holiday's a top 5 guard defender in the league. Bam's the best defender in the NBA, in my opinion. And then we obviously know what Jimmy Butler can do is locking down opponents and getting in the passing lanes. And if you're able to keep Tyler Hero on that deal and you have a core 4 of Hero and Jrue Holiday in the backcourt with Caleb Martin, Bam, and Jimmy in the front court, that is a very dangerous team that I'm not going to say is better than the Milwaukee Bucks right now with Dame, Giannis, Brook Lopez, and Chris Middleton, but they would absolutely be the second best team in the NBA, or excuse me, the Eastern Conference, and I think it would set up an inevitable Eastern Conference Finals showdown between Milwaukee and the Heat. And I'll ask you, do you want to trade for Jrue Holiday? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Let me know in the comment section. If it was up to me, I'm typing my T's. But unfortunately, I got to tell you right now, you can't get your hopes up because 1, I don't think Pat Riley ends up making the move, and 2, he'd have to negotiate with, yes, the Portland Trailblazers and Joe Cronin. And if they couldn't get anything for Dame, what makes you think it's going to happen for Jrue Holiday? And this is a great point from Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. He said, even if Blazers hypothetically took a Lowry expiring Jovic slash Jaquez in my book, and then a first for Holiday, re-signing him next summer while keeping Jimmy, Bam, Duncan, Hero, Jovic, Jaquez, or maybe it would be Jovic, and re-signing Caleb Martin, Miami Heat would be a tax team in 24-25, would have to worry about that second apron, which they would have had to do that with Bradley Beal. So there's that. And we know that Mickey Arison, the Heat's owner, does not care for paying that tax very much. So if you want to talk about Joe Cronin and the Blazers not wanting to negotiate with Miami with Dame, what makes them think you're going to do it with Jrue Holiday? And then you add in the fact of the money aspect that I don't see it happening. You know what I do see happening is Buddy Hield, and I think this is the more reasonable option for the Miami Heat. Like I said, they need to add someone else before this season begins, and I feel like Buddy Hield is our guy. He can score the basketball. Yes, the defense in the backcourt with Hero and Buddy would struggle, but the offense would be dynamic. 16.8 points per game for Buddy Hield, and I mentioned this on a different show. He is a top 5 shooter in the association, and I think I would have him third, only behind Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. I mean, shooting 42.5% from 3 on 8.5 attempts a game is flat out outrageous. Adding Buddy Hield and making him your 4th option behind Hero, Jimmy, and Bam offensively would create one of the most dynamic and best offenses in the NBA. And I don't think it would take much either. I've said this a couple times, but Duncan Robinson and Buddy Hield make about the same money, so you'd be able to swap them money-wise very easily. Just throw in 2 second-round picks, get Buddy Hield. Buddy and Indiana are not going to play this season out together after they did not work out a contract extension. They take Duncan Robinson, who's not the same player, but has the same ability of shooting when he's right. You get a couple second-round picks. I think this is a trade that can happen, and I want to make this very clear. Pat Riley, if you're watching the Heat Report, which if you did, you would know how important it was to get Damian Lillard. But you cannot stand Pat Riley. This team has too many good players, Jimmy and Bam, who have been to the NBA Finals twice in the last 4 seasons. Eastern Conference Finals 3 times. You cannot waste this duo's prime together. We do not know how many years Jimmy has left of playing the elite level basketball he is doing right now. And guess what? If you don't capitalize on this window, you're going to have Jimmy Butler leave in 3 to 4 years, and then Bam Adebayo is going to be questioning his position with the Miami Heat because if he realized that the organization did nothing to make sure Jimmy Butler wins in his peak, why would they do the same thing for him? This is a time that is very imperative for the Heat organization to find a way, after missing out on Damian Lillard, to get a piece, whether it be Jrue Holiday, whether it be Buddy Hield, and get in a way right now where the Heat can win and compete for a title, because I don't believe they can. They can make the playoffs, but not compete for a title as the roster currently sits behind the Boston Celtics and behind the Milwaukee Bucks. You're not going to get any coverage like we do here at the Heat Report. Like, you're not going to see someone pour their heart out like I just did and give a pep talk to Pat Riley. That's why you subscribe. I'm not going to try to sway you anymore, other than the fact that watch parties are coming up, and I can't be more excited for the season.